Okay, we'll just let that focus a bit, center it, and perfect. Hi, Dark Side of Evil back with another book review. Today I'll be reviewing the complete fairy tales of the Brothers Grimm. There is more than a couple editions of this, but what I like about this one is it has the original 210 stories plus an extra 40 tales that have never before appeared in English. Most of the other ones only have the 210 stories, so of all of the complete fairy tales of the Brothers Grimm so far, this is the one I've found that feels the most, well, actually complete. Also, that cover illustration's kind of nice. Again, it's not my favorite edition. I like some of the more visually bright ones, and maybe I should have used one of them for this review, but I kind of didn't want to buy another one just for that. And yeah, it's a nice picture. Kind of nice, or kind of sweet looking. Now, I'm not going to go in depth with each and every tale since there are 250 altogether. Instead, I've picked out 7 that stuck in my memory after all this time. And to be honest, I've actually forgotten a lot of these since I read this like 3 or 4 years ago. So, yeah, I'm just going to center that there again. And the first story I'm going to touch on is... Let me just flip to it, actually. I wish there were illustrations for this. Well, there are, but there's not a ton. It's too bad each one doesn't begin with an illustration. Oh, skipped ahead. God damn it. There we go. A tale about the boy who went forth to learn what fear was. And I think I can get to stay on the page, just for the heck of it. Yeah. So, the title pretty much says it all. It's an interesting story of a young man who literally lacks the ability to feel fear, and as such goes in search of a way to discover it. People he meets try all sorts of tactics to teach him fear, each person failing after the next. Eventually, an innkeeper he meets tells him of a haunted castle. The king has proposed a challenge that whoever can last 3 whole days in this castle will get his daughter's hand in marriage. Also, there's treasure being guarded by the ghost that's ripe for the taking. No one who has gone in the castle has returned, but the boy, determined to learn fear, undertakes the challenge at the permission of the king. Fear is, of course, an essential human emotion, and this just goes to show that we always want what we don't have, even if it's something usually seen as a hindrance. There's a cool test of strength in this story as well that I really liked. The story also taught me the funny saying, married to the rope maker's daughter, which is a euphemism for being hung. For being hung. I didn't say that very clear. Yeah, as morbid as that sounds, I thought that was an interesting one. Give me one moment. The second story I'm going to talk about that I liked is called The Brave Little Tailor. So for this one, this is one of those classic examples of a single misunderstanding spiraling into a series of other issues. The main character is a tailor who kills 3 flies at once and then makes a belt saying killed 3 at once. Of course, people take this to mean something else, or he killed something else, not just flies. They take it to assume that he meant something actually serious. And one thing leads to the next, and he ends up bumbling his way through his victories until he's faced with a giant as his final opponent. Didn't get a chance to reread, but I believe that that's the gist of it, more or less. Very fun tales. I like these kind of mistaken hero or mistaken villain stories. And, well, yeah. I might actually read that one in the future sometime, but moving on. Oh, there's an illustration. How 6 made their way in the world. This one is about a very skilled ex-military soldier given no compensation for his years of service to the king. Understandably pissed off, he seeks revenge by endeavoring to scam the king out of his treasure. But to do this, he needs a team. He proceeds to travel and meet 5 peculiar men with abilities. A super strong guy who can uproot a tree, a huntsman who can shoot the eye off a fly, a giant who blows windmills miles away with air from his nostrils, a man so fast he has to run with one leg to stop himself from running too fast, and a guy with a crooked hat that if he straightens it, it will freeze his surroundings. And the main character is, of course, the leader. As you can see, all these people are all somewhat exaggerated, which is what I like about them. My favorite is the man who has to run on one leg to avoid running too fast. Just imagining the speed that would take is pretty funny. Essentially, they challenge the king to a set of competitions specifically tailored to each of their unique powers. It sort of goes how you'd expect with the exception of one part, but still a fun story. Next up is... I should really actually start checking if these have illustrations in them. Some of them might... Oh, there's an illustration. Is it for this one? No, it's for a different one. I don't remember this one having an illustration, so I was surprised. But anyways, this one is called Gambling Hans. This one's probably my third favorite. The story of a failed gambler who allows God and St. Peter's to stay the night at his house as well as feed them. As repayment for his generosity, he's given a magic deck and magic dice that turn him into a master gambler overnight, as well as a magic tree that upon being climbed by someone can't be climbed down from without Hans's consent. I'm not going to spoil too much, but it's a pretty funny story of him kind of screwing over everyone, and God and St. Peter's doing what they can to try and stop them and undo their mistake. And next up we have... Oh wait, I must have skipped ahead. Give me a sec. I didn't skip ahead, but I forgot that I did one of them out of order. Here we go. Oh, well, there's an illustration for the story before this, but, you know, that doesn't relate to what I'm talking about. This one is the Master Thief. So, this one is the story of a thief given 3 difficult tasks to achieve by a powerful lord. He must steal... Oh, and they're all escalating in difficulty, which makes it, you know, more interesting. He must steal the lord's private horse from his stable, steal the lord's bed sheets out from underneath his wife and him, as well as her wedding ring from her very finger, all while they are sleeping, no less. And lastly, steal the parson and the clerk from the church. If he fails, he will be hung for being a thief. I like stories about thieves, and it's neat that the tasks all escalate in difficulty. I don't fully remember this one's outcome, but I do remember having a fondness for it. And what we have next is the one that I skipped past, or that was before this. Nope, not that one. Where is it? It's not that one either. Oops. I'm getting all mixed up here. One sec. Where are you? Nope. 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 What the heck? Oh, here we go. One second. There we go. The King of the Golden Mountain. Fancy title there. There is a story in here about people looking for mountains made out of gold and silver and other stuff like that, which I liked, but this one actually doesn't have a literal golden mountain. It's just the name of the place in the story. And this is about a merchant who, upon unexpectedly losing his riches and becoming poor, makes a deal with a magic gnome to return his riches. In exchange, in 12 years, the man must bring the magic gnome the first thing that brushes up against his leg when he returns home that very day. Desperate, and expecting this to be his dog, the merchant reluctantly agrees. However, to his horror, it instead turns out to be his infant son. Him being brought to the gnome 12 years later is just the beginning. The story goes on from there to a princess rescue plot that involves the boy to be repeatedly beaten by a bunch of people. A couple other things happen, but I shouldn't give away too much. It's not the most straightforward of the stories, and the ending especially is pretty surprising. It's a bit refreshing with it being one of the less predictable ones. Since as fun as a lot of these were, they're also very simplistic tales, what with them being short stories. What I really loved about this story is the magic objects he gets throughout. My favorite is the magic sword he gets that upon being drawn by him, after he says the phrase "off with everyone's heads except mine," will magically behead everyone around him within a certain radius. This is, to date, my favorite fictional sword, and it's a shame it's not more well known. And just a sec. Oh, the last thing I want to talk about. The weird thing about this is the merchant is mentioned to have a daughter at the beginning of the story. This was pointless since the daughter isn't a part of the story at all, despite their brief mention at the beginning. She's never mentioned afterwards, featured, or heard. The story might as well have said that they only had a son. And the last one I want to mention, just a second, let me get to it, Again, I wish more of these had pictures, or at least the ones I chose. Maybe I should have chose ones with pictures, I don't know. These are just, again, the ones that stuck out to me. Or the ones that I remember a little bit of, and bothered to reread a bit of. The Robber and His Sons. So, this one is about a retired thief whose sons, despite his warning, go out to become professional thieves like him. This lands the three of them in big trouble as they botch one of their first jobs and are set to be executed by the Queen. The robber proposes telling the Queen of one of his adventures, and if the Queen is impressed by his tale, they will be set free. She agrees, and the robber goes on to tell one of his past adventures, which becomes the rest of the story. It's a really exciting story with an admittedly anticlimactic ending, and I can't lie, I don't actually remember it. Part of me wanted to reread it, but I got a little lazy. I'm just gonna be honest. I know that's poor form, but you know. And, you know, it's for the best I don't ruin the story anyways, or tell too much about it. But yeah, he tells a very interesting story about one of his past crimes. Anyways, those are just the ones that I remembered, with as many tales as there are. There's plenty of other ones I can't fully remember, but I still know I enjoyed. Most of them have happy endings. Only two had flat-out sad endings. And one story has a main character being punished for being ugly, which was kind of weird. And just give me a second, I need to stop an alarm that I forgot about. Sorry, where was I? Yeah, there's one story about someone just being punished for being ugly, which is, yeah, kind of odd. Different times. And being as old as they are, expect a lot of cliches, such as kings being idiots, women being trophies, stepmothers being evil, and a lot of plot convenience and exaggeration. But in a way, those kind of also give these stories their unique and old feel. They really were written a long time ago, and as such are a relic of their time. It's also just interesting to see by works like this how times have changed and storytelling has evolved. I'm not sure if these are supposed to be for kids, since several of them are kind of dark, but you know, those were different times when kids were probably used to seeing much worse. There's also a repeated use of the name Hans in several of the stories. I should look up if there's some special meaning behind the name later. There probably is. But yeah, that's about all I want to say about this one. So, once again, there's the picture of the cover. And yeah, throughout there's plenty of illustrations. Can't seem to find one offhand. That's a good one. Should have marked down a good one. Let me see if I can find a good one real quick. One that I really liked. There's probably a couple. Let's see if I can quickly find a good one. Oh yeah, this one I really liked. Yeah, that's a very pretty illustration. I think that's one of the ones I remember the most. And I believe it's about someone... I think it's about a woman letting St. Joseph into her inn. Or into her house and letting him stay with her for a while or something like that. Actually, I didn't reread this one, but I remember kind of liking this one too. It was really sweet, for lack of a better term. But yeah, that's a really nice illustration. I really like the detail on that. It looks hand-drawn too, but I doubt it is. But yeah. And that's about it for this one. So, thanks for watching. Rate, comment, and subscribe if you like. And please leave me plenty of feedback. I'm always looking to know how I can improve. I'm still very new at this, so yeah, any feedback, I don't mind. even if it's you know, it's not negative feedback, but you know, don't be afraid to tell me something I might not like. I love all constructive criticism, and thank you for watching again, and take care.